viewers at home. This is Holly from Edison Addiction Services. I'm so happy to be here today introducing my new coworker, Mike. Edison Addiction Services is expanding. We're growing our team. We have brought on Michael Russo. So hello.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Amazing. So, can you tell me a little about what a CPRS or Certified Peer Recovery Specialist is and what they do?
Absolutely. So, Certified Peer Recovery Specialist, as you said, is someone who has lived experience in mental health or addiction. So, there are certain credentials you have to meet in order to become a peer recovery specialist. So it is a little bit of work in the field, and it is a little bit of educational work as well. And essentially, you just have to have that lived experience, and it helps people who are struggling out there that need somebody that's not as clinical per se. It's more of a personal approach, and you try to meet somebody where they're at. So.
Exactly. How do you like your new job so far?
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's
we're
awesome.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah.
So to tell our viewers a little bit about part of the role of our job as recovery coaches, we do work closely with the Edison Police Department, and as residents are experiencing troubles with addiction, substance use disorder, and Narcan is issued, we get a report and we will go out and do wellness checks. We'll knock on your door just to make sure that you're doing okay, to offer services. We can help people get into detox, residential treatment, IOP, OP, all these different things. And it's difficult to navigate the road to recovery, as we know. So we're just there to meet you where you're at, no judgment. We're not the police, you're not in trouble, but if we do show up, just know that we're here to lend a helping hand. We're here for our community and we care about the residents. Also, we are both people who are in recovery.
Yes.
So that being said, are you comfortable sharing with our viewers a little about your background, how you came here, your experience supporting those with addiction and mental health?
Of course. So I actually, as a kid, I felt like I never really knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I feel like some people know, and then other people, they kind of have to explore different avenues. And I went to Ocean County College, and I took a few different courses, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And my mother actually suggested that I should get into social work. And so I transferred over to Ramapo College of New Jersey in Mahwah, and I started taking social work courses. And that's when I knew I had a knack for it. And I graduated Ramapo with a bachelor's degree in social work, and while I was in Ramapo, I had a couple of internships, and one of them being at a assisted living facility. And I was helping seniors who may have been struggling. It was a bunch of different things. It was more on a macro level. So I'd run bingo. I would help people who were struggling. It was kind of wherever they needed me, I was there. So that was a cool experience. And then I kind of moved into a micro, more social work internship. And at that internship, it was at Vantage Health System in Englewood, New Jersey. And I was a residential services intern, and I would go out into the community where these people lived, and they had group homes, and I'd work one-on-one with clients and just kind of help them wherever need be with mental. It was more mental health in that internship. Some of them did struggle with substance use, but it was definitely more mental health. And Vantage had a wide variety of services, so it was a really good internship that I was able to gain experience at. And after that, I took a little break and I worked in the restaurant industry for a while, just trying to figure out where my place was. And then I decided to hop into my career of social work.
Excellent.
And the first job that I worked at was at the Mental Health Association. And I would go out into the community. I would help people who had mental health diagnoses, and it was a wide variety of people. And I got to really experience some people in crisis, some people who were doing well, and it was it just was a great experience over there because it was my first job. I was out in the field, it was hands-on, and I helped people with filing paperwork for, housing, or I would take them shopping and teach them how to shop, really. And it gave me a lot of knowledge on some of the struggles that people face with mental health. And then I went into the addiction fields, and I worked for an organization called Prevention is Key, strictly addiction, and that gave me the addiction experience. And I was, again, a lot of community outreach work where I was able to get experience with many different populations. I worked in Newark, I worked in Patterson, I worked in Morris County. I mean, it was a wide variety of the populations that I served. And I'm just, I'm very grateful for having all that experience under my belt. And this is only maybe 3 years, I would say, of experience.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
And as we know from this line of work, many times people who are experiencing substance use disorder also are suffering from mental health issues as well. They kind of, can you speak a little on that as to why that is?
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of people who have had previous trauma, and before they even picked up a drink or a drug, and that contributed to, some of the other diagnoses that they may have had. And unfortunately, when you start using substances, it can affect your mental health, and it affects dopamine, it affects serotonin, and that can really affect you in negative ways. And unfortunately, some people get the mental health diagnosis after they started using substances too. And it's kind of like you hear dual diagnosis, and it's such a common term, and that's why a lot of treatment facilities say they treat dual diagnosis, because it's so common for somebody to have that mental health and substance use together. So I feel like it's very important to treat both of them, because people really, like, you could say it's like the chicken or the egg, right? Like, which one came first? It doesn't really matter. What matters is that we want to help both. Absolutely. Because people need to get better in every way.
So outside of viewers at home contacting us at this 732-248-7295 number, a person who may be experiencing a crisis, what would you recommend in the heat of the moment? Say it's midnight. What kind of steps should they take if they're in a crisis mode?
There are certain lines that you could call. The 988 is the suicide hotline, and I feel like that's an important resource to have, because that has people who are on call 24/7 who are trained for an experience like that. And also Woodbridge Township Blue Cares offers a 24-hour line for people who are struggling with mental health as well. And I think that is another good resource to have.
Absolutely, and we'll make sure we get that graphic up and information to our viewers as well. Blue Cares hotline is 24/7, staffed by people in recovery. So if you're just feeling any kind of way, you can always call, speak to someone there. So where could people in the township find you on a day in the life? What kind of places are you going, and what is the scope of the work like?
Yeah, I really like this work, by the way. I enjoy getting out into the community. That's just something that I've always had a knack for. And the day in the life is, it depends on the day, and some days I've been working with the Edison Housing Authority, and I have gone to their food pantry. I set up a table there, and I will have Narcan, brochures, resources. If someone just needs to talk to somebody, I'm there. That's what I'm there for. And also, I feel like the educational piece is super important, because some people don't know what Narcan is. Some people need to have the information on how to use Narcan. And that's what I'm there for, is to educate people. And if you know somebody who's struggling with addiction or mental health, I can give you resources. I can help in a variety of ways. And that's a lot of what I do. I go different places and I set up this table with all these resources. And the Mandala Housing Authority is another place I go to, and I'll set up a table there, and I've been able to connect with the people who live there, and they know who I am, and we sit and we have a cup of coffee, and we talk. And I feel like that's another important thing, is to have that space for somebody to talk about what they may be going through, or maybe, again, they know somebody that's a family member who's struggling, and they're having their own struggles, and that's something I've heard many of times, where the family members are struggling and they don't know where to go or what to do, and there are many support groups out there that help family members who have, who are on the other side of that. And they have the Al-Anon, and they have, I know Smart Recovery offers the family members, and there are many different resources out there, because I know it's a struggle for everybody. Addiction is a family disease.
Absolutely.
And we need to address everybody who's being affected, not just the person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll drag you with me to the high schools
Yeah.
too, where we do the Smart Recovery meeting for kids in the high school. Such an impactful program. We've been doing it for about the last 3 years. I know they love speaking with you, getting a different perspective on addiction, recovery, and just living a balanced life, free of substance, free of any of those chains of addiction. So that being said, are you comfortable speaking a bit about your recovery story?
Absolutely. And I want to go back, by the way, to I have limited experience with kids, and being able to go into the high schools with you has been such a benefit for me, because I'm working with a different population that I've never worked with before, and gaining experience working with high school students and trying to, come at them with the prevention aspect too, of, like, this is something that may affect you down the line. So just, keep an eye on it. And for those kids who are struggling, we're able to be there and
I
make a
love
difference
it.
in their life.
It's the best part
It's
of the
huge.
job for
It's
me.
huge. But yeah, my recovery, that's a good question. And I think about it, it's super important to me. That's why I do the work that I do, because I'm a person in recovery, and I know that I wouldn't have any of this if I wasn't in recovery. So I have 4 years I've been in recovery. I appreciate it. And, I struggled with alcohol from 15 to 25. And I really didn't know who I was. I feel like that's why I didn't know what I wanted to do, because I didn't know who I was, because I started drinking at a younger age. And for me, I just wanted to get out of myself. I came from just certain things that have happened that I feel like affected me in a negative way. And unfortunately, that led to me using substances and trying to escape, and using it as a coping mechanism instead of the healthy ways. And it took me until 25, and I finally realized that I needed some help. And I was able to get the help that I needed and start my recovery journey. And from then on out, I felt like I needed to pass along that message of there's hope. If I can get through it, anybody can get through it. And I'm there for people who are still struggling, or maybe at the beginning point of their recovery, or even if they've been in recovery for a little bit. Talking to somebody and getting a new perspective on things is one of the most important things that I've learned, is talking with another person who has similar struggles. And I know how important my recovery is to me, and that's why I have this job, and that's why I have a knack for this job. I'm super passionate about it, and I just to be able to go out there in the Edison community and help people has been beneficial for me, and see the difference that we're making out there.
It's amazing. And just to share a bit with our viewers about the recovery process, so I do remember you were in treatment, correct?
That is correct.
How long did that span?
Yeah, there are different levels of treatment. So I was in all levels of treatment. I went through from point A to point B. I mean, I went to detox.
Okay.
And then I went to residential. Detox is when people need to get whatever substance they use out of their system and they need medical help. Unfortunately, if they're going through withdrawal symptoms, the medical professionals are able to help you through that. And when your detox is over, you can move up to residential.
Okay.
And residential is a little less intense than detox. And then you can move into an intensive outpatient program. So these are more for people who are in halfway houses or sober houses or living at home as well. And they go to the facility 3 times a week for 3 hours a day.
Okay.
And there are drug tests on top of that, and they test you a few times a week depending on the program. And you kind of start moving up levels. So you go from 3 times a week to 2 times a week, which is outpatient, to just counseling. And I went through the whole process. And I felt like that's what built the foundation to my recovery. Was I was held accountable, really. I was living at home, but I was still going in for the drug test. I was still going to the groups 3 hours a day. And that's kind of where everything started. And I was fortunate enough that I didn't have a job. I didn't really have much else to do. So I really could focus in on my recovery for the first year or so. And that's, for me, I felt like that built such a good foundation. And I try to continue that. I try to put my recovery first, because I know if I don't have my recovery, then I don't really have anything else. And having support systems, and there's many different factors to recovery, and it's work, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. Would you trade all of that experience, or do you believe there were lessons in there that led you to where you're at now?
Many lessons. Many lessons in addiction. You know, I fell a bunch of times. I had just a lot of negative experiences, but I feel like that's what led me to this path of going and helping people, and the passion I have for it, because as a certified peer recovery specialist with that lived experience, I can identify with people and some of the struggles they may be going through, and I can share my experience with whatever the situation may be. If I went through it, I'm going to share that experience with somebody so they're able to get through it maybe a little bit better just by hearing what I did. Yeah.
And kudos to you for handling that so early on in your life. 25, you still have so much life ahead of you.
Appreciate it.
And just to let our viewers know, it's never too late. It's never too late to change. If you are sitting here listening to this message and it's really hitting home, and you're maybe wheels are turning about your own life, contact us at this number, 732-248-7295. We can walk you through the steps. We can help you navigate the path to recovery, because it can be quite confusing.
Yep.
And to let viewers know at home as well, my recovery story, I'll have about 14 years in June. And it was different than Michael's in that I wasn't privy to going into a treatment center. So just sharing that to let people know where you have the motivation and mindset to change and seek out some support. Change is possible. It doesn't have to be in a treatment center or a hospital or a detox. You can do it other alternative ways by going to meetings and diving into holistic practices. It's very different for everyone. It's not a one and done for each individual. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on what you just said, because the certified peer recovery specialist, a big thing is meeting somebody where they're at. And that means multiple pathways to recovery. And some people may not take to a certain support group, but may take to another support group. And we try to find the best fit for somebody. That is what we do as certified peer recovery specialists. And that also can include trying to get people medicated assisted treatment, which may be Suboxone or may be methadone, and try to start them on that recovery journey. And that's why I feel like it's important for certified peer recovery specialists to be non-judgmental. Because there's so many different ways. My experience is different than your experience, and we know people's other experiences that are different than both of ours. But I've seen so many people succeed in so many different ways. And that's why I feel like the CPRS is such an important position, because it's really opened people's eyes to that like harm reduction aspect, to that, you know, multiple pathways aspect, to smart recovery. I know a lot of people never heard of smart recovery until I started getting the word out about it. And I just explained to people what it's about.
So can you tell us a little bit about what exactly harm reduction is?
Yeah, I feel like there are so many different definitions to harm reduction. People have different ways of viewing it, but I like to give examples about experiences that people have had. And one experience that I've seen firsthand is someone who was a previous fentanyl heroin user, and they decided that they wanted to stop that and go on the Suboxone, which helps people with the withdrawal symptoms of fentanyl. And that is medicated assisted treatment. That's one form of harm reduction. Another form is using clean needles, and there are many resources out there that help get people clean needles and fentanyl test strips, so you know if fentanyl is going to be in the drugs that you were using. And there are just many different things. And on this subject as well, did you want to mention a little bit about the kiosks that will be coming in the soon?
Yes, good point. So Edison Township will be implementing kiosks which are filled with products like test strips, condoms, all different types of items that will keep a person safe who is choosing to continue their use, so it keeps them safe, free from harm, and clean. And again, we're always here to discuss alternative issues. And also to just brush upon, so in our role as recovery coaches going out in the community doing wellness checks, fentanyl is showing up in a large percentage of drugs that people are ingesting unknowingly.
Yes.
So do you care to just warn the viewers at home a little about safe use or?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's super important to test for fentanyl. And that's why the test strips are out there, is because fentanyl, one little dose of that, unfortunately, someone can overdose. And that's why we're experiencing this epidemic with fentanyl. And people are dying, and the resources are out there for people to be safe. And that's why I want to get the word out about that, because it's around. There are many different organizations that help.
And it's always surprising when a person ingests something like marijuana and wind up overdosing. They had no idea what they were taking, or getting a pill that's a pressed pill. They don't know the source, and there we go showing up because an overdose has occurred. So we can't urge safety enough. Please stay safe. So how can people reach you at Edison Municipal, and where can we find you?
Well, I have a couple ways of contact. I have an email, which is mrusso@edisonnj.gov. That is my email. And my phone number is 732-841-7887. And that is my cell phone number. And the office number is going to be 732-248-7294.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And one last question to just close out our session today. In all the years you've been doing this, do any certain stories or instances really resonate or have left a lasting impression on you, as in terms of victories or just pulling at your heartstrings, anything like that?
Yeah, I think of a few people, and there's one person when I worked with people who were struggling with mental health, and this guy had recently got out of a treatment facility for mental health, and it was for a long time. And he comes out, and everything is new to him. I mean, the iPhones were new. It was actually really interesting to see, and I was able to help this guy get a bank account. I helped him go shopping. I helped him kind of rebuild his life again. And to be able to see someone grow, even the small victories, that's what it's about in this. It's the small stuff, because for something that may seem so normal or trivial for us may be a struggle for somebody. And that's why we're here, is to help people with those small victories. And this is kind of off subject, but I know for me at the beginning of my recovery, that's what it was about, was the small victories. But to be able to help this person out and kind of help him rebuild that life kind of from scratch, if you think about it, it was cool to see. So I've had a lot of those cases of people rebuilding, and I was able to see their small victories and them achieve recovery, and whether it be mental health or substance. And I want to continue to do that, which is why I'm working at Edison Municipal, because I know that I can make a difference in this community.
Well, we're so glad to have you. And if you see us out in the community, say hi. We don't bite. We're here to help. If you have any questions, you know where to find us, and we look forward to speaking with you all again soon. Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for having me, Holly. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
My pleasure.